I like filming rats in the wild, and as a wildlife professional, I need the best gear possible. Pigeons don't film themselves, so I've been looking. I have an A7S III with a frickin' 200 to 600. My search is done years ago. But I ponder switching to Nikon some days, and they have the most telephoto lenses ever, and it's baffling. Which one would I choose? I made a list of the gods. Let's talk about wildlife setups today as we witness footage.
All I want is the perfect camera. All I want is the perfect camera.
We're on the DJI Pocket 3, by the way. First test as a studio cam. Dare we dream that. So I took the Sony out with the teleconverter as a wildlife test in 4K 120p with a 10% crop. We're looking at 924 mils. Full frame, handheld. And at the end I did a 4K 60 with clear image zoom, which ended up being 1260 mils. Got a bunch of footage today, and I just realized how amazing it is to just have more reach. More is always better. 800's the minimum. I'm pretty happy with the 600, but when you put the teleconverter on, you get so much more detail. So Nikon, what are you doing to me? My first shot of the day, of course, was a doggy looking out the window. He was tired, maybe on his way to the vet, pondering, why am I doing this? What did I do to deserve this? I smile at my owner, and I'm lost in his thoughts. So I made a joke Nikon 400mm lens roadmap because it seemed like they just kept repeating that focal length. They have a 100 to 400, two 400mm primes, and 180 to 600 with 400 in there. It was like, how many more do we have here? It's like too many options. But now that I'm debating getting into Nikon for wildlife, and I'm waiting for the Nikon A7S III, when that happens, okay, you still haven't beat my Sony A7S III specs. You have 8K 60 RAW, but nothing slower than 240. You ruined my life. So if you're thinking of getting into Nikon for telephoto, you have 7 options. Some are ridiculously priced, others are budget, some are more versatile. It's really hard to pick. So let's just start with the 100 to 400. In my opinion, this is not enough reach for wildlife, but if your whole thing is getting macro, it's actually really good. I used to have the Sony G Master 100 to 400. I got that owl with that. That was 400. I was pretty close to him though. So like, you can get some stuff, but if your thing is tiny birds, 400's not going to get you much of anything. But if it's bigger animals and you're closer to them, maybe you're safari elephant tracking and you're on a freaking Jeep, then yeah, 100 to 400 is nice, and then you get your macro insects. It's a versatile lens, but not for me. No, thank you. Then they have a 400mm Tony 4.5 prime. So it's faster Tonys, lighter weight, way more money. But the thing is, it has way less macro ability. 0.16 times macro versus 0.38. The higher the number, the better. It's actually only like $500 more. I don't know why I over-exaggerated that one, but it's just, I feel like if you're in the 100 to 400 category, it'd be so much nicer to have a prime. It's just, man, zooms kind of suck. They're nice and versatile, but the prime's always going to look better. And that lens reminds me of my Leica 200mm 2.8 prime. It's actually faster if you think about it, tonne-wise. 4.5 versus 5.6. And that was a fun lens. I got plenty of magical shots with it. That's a debatable one, but I doubt it. Let's be real, the answer is the 180 to 600. If you really want to get into wildlife for not much money, it's like the cheapest option here with the most range, and 600 mils, got really nice reach, and it's very sharp. Somewhat respectable macro. It's heavy. It's a heavy beast of a freak. They somehow made it heavier than my Sony 200 to 600. So that's annoying, but I always carry that thing out, and I'm never that annoyed. I go out like, it's heavy, but you get your shot. The reason I'm even debating going into Nikon is the stabilization is so much better than Sony. I'm always swaying in the wind. It's hard to keep it steady, whereas Nikon apparently leads the industry in telephoto stabe. And then you have animal eye detect autofocus, you have Nikon color science, beautiful dynamic range. Like, what's not to love here? And can you even imagine 8K 60 RAW with wildlife? I don't know how big those files are going to be, way too big, but it would be so beautiful. And then you're punching in, if you're doing 8K with your 400mm prime, you punch on into 800mm, you're getting 4K 60 RAW. But Super 800, not bad. I just don't know how usable those files are. Are they hard to edit? Are they way too big? It's not even viable. So like, I don't even know. But a Nikon Z8 with that 400mm prime, that's a fairly light setup and very versatile, unless you want HD 240p, which doesn't exist. Then you're jumping up very largely in price if you go to the 600mm Tony 6.3 prime. Way more money, 47 hundo plus $96. Oh man, it's pretty light. You're lighter than the 180 to 600. That would be so nice. But like, 600's very, if I'm being honest with you, when I'm on my Sony 200 to 600, I'm usually at 600. And then I easily find the bird. It's not hard, so I could see myself using a 600mm prime. And you get a teleconverter if you ever want more reach. It's a decent option. I'm just surprised at how much more it cost for not much gain. Like the 180 to 600, you're getting the same Tony 6.3, but all this zoom range and just maybe slight sharpness is what I've seen. Better flare control. Like, it's better, maybe a little more 3D pop. I dream that I heard Matt Granger say the 600mm and the 800 especially have way more 3D pop. That sold me immediately. I'm already like sleeping next to Nikon stores outside waiting for someone to hand me. But then you have the 800mm prime, same 6.3, but again another leap of $2,000 more. And this one's now heavy. It's heavier than the 180 to 600, and you're stuck at 800. That's a tight one. An 800mm prime, if you go for a walk, I guarantee you there will be moments where you're like, I can't use this lens here. That thing is too close to me. Something's gonna go wrong, but most of your shots, when you do get them, are gonna be the best of all this stuff so far. So like, that's your dream lens, but it's so much money, and it's heavy, and it's not versatile, but you have 3D pop. For squirrels, can you imagine it? I dared dream it. Now, I don't know why I'm even mentioning these last two professional lenses, the 400mm 2.8 and the 600mm Tony 4, frickin' $14,000 and $15,000 respectively. I don't respect that cost at all. Those lenses both have built-in teleconverters and can take extra teleconverters. If you had all the money in the world, I think you might go for the 400 2.8, and then you have like the ultimate Tony for wide angle stuff, and then flip the switch on a teleconverter, boom, 560mm, add a teleconverter. I don't know, that might be dumb. And let me just throw a dark horse into the mix, the Canon 200 to 800. If you're thinking Canon might be your favored, that's a nice range. I'm not gonna lie to you, 200 to 800, your Tonys have dived off a cliff at 6.3 to 9. That hurts, but when I'm on my Sony, it's 924 mils, Tony 9. So like, we're similar, and it's good enough. Like, you're still blurring the background, and if it's a nice day, it's not too high of an ISO, but sometimes it can be. If I'm in 240p, I've noticed that ISO gets hard. But that's a really decent offering from Canon. It's a little bit lighter than Sony and Nikon zooms, and it reaches farther. It's just the Tonys are pretty bad. But Canon will make up for it with color science. From what I've noticed, the stabe is not as good as Nikon, but it's better than Sony. So like, you're in between. What would you even decide? If it's me thinking right now, I already have the A7S III and 200 to 600. If I got a Nikon, I'd kind of want to have something different. If I didn't have that, I would just go for the 180 to 600, and then versatile, very similar to my Sony, only I'm getting better video specs. Worse in a lot of ways. AK60, animal eye detect. Or you go for the 800mm prime, you save the coins, and then you get the ultimate thing, and then it's complemented with that. And a teleconverter maybe for that. And Nikon says their teleconverters don't degrade their image. And my buddy sent me an article, good old Discovery camera. He was researching on the internet. Let's all subscribe to him for daily uploads. He was saying that it's real. Like, they tested it, and it's like it actually got sharper in the corners with the teleconverter at certain toniatures, like Tony 11, something unusable like that. But like, there were actually benefits, and mostly it was the same or better, and somewhat worse in some apertures, the ones you would use most, unfortunately. But hot damn, Nikon, you've done well. You've got a lot of options there for wildlife. It's fun times ahead. I don't know what I would, if I'm suggesting to you, you have a Nikon Z8, you could, in theory, use a ZFC, APS-C, and go with one of the lower, like a 400mm prime. That could get you something, but they don't have much video specs. If Nikon releases a Pro APS-C, you might have something, but they don't. And they won't. They might. If I'm just recommending you got your Nikon Z6 Mark I or something, I say go 180 to 600. Stop dreaming about the prime. I know it's fantastic, and I want it so bad, the 800mm especially. A Nikon Z8 with that 800mm prime, I can't even imagine the squirrel footage that I would get. I don't deserve it though. So, I don't know, that's high-end stuff. So relax. Pocket 3. Studio cam? Viable? Could be. It could be. Which lens would you get? Subscribe for more videos. See you next. Thank you, Winkle Pleck. Huh? I got it better. I didn't.